Hi, my name is Barbara, and I'm a survivor of the foster system and abusive relationships. My very first childhood memories would be just my father abusing me, my mom. She's paranoid schizophrenic, so she knew what was going on, and it's really hard for me to hold her accountable as an adult now because she's just very mentally ill, and the older she gets, just the worse it becomes. She didn't want me around him, so then she dropped me off to my grandparents. They were also really wealthy, and so my mom wanted me to inherit that wealth. And that was the complete opposite of what happened. They would beat me and starve me and neglect me. And I had a cousin who would come over, and he did a lot of the abuse to me. My parents got in trouble, and I ended up in foster care because I was in school one day and I had really bad speech impediment. So I was in my speech therapy class, and I didn't have my reading log signed. Like, I'm supposed to be reading these certain books to help with speech, and it wasn't signed. And she was like, "Why are you not getting your reading log signed?" And I just nonchalantly, 7 years old, was like, "My dad beat my mom last night, so she didn't get to sign my reading log." And so they were like, "Okay, red flag." So right then, CPS came in and took me into foster care, and I, never went back to my parents since. And my foster parents became my adopted parents, and at first, everything was fine. The person who actually adopted me, her daughter and I were best friends in kindergarten. So she knew way in the beginning the abuse I was going through. She knew this was going to happen, and she actually went and got her foster care license the same exact day I was put into foster care. Ironically enough, it just happened. So it just felt like it was fate, like I was supposed to be here. And I got to be with my best friend, who is now today still my sister. I still communicate with her. And everything was perfect in the beginning because I was a child. But for some reason, the older I got, the more aggressive they became towards me. Now, I didn't go through starvation and child abuse and anything like that, but they were extremely verbally abusive to me. I was just in trouble a lot at school. I was constantly getting screamed at. I remember one time my adopted mom was like, "Why are these batteries in this remote not working to the TV?" And I was like, "Well, I think the batteries are going out." I don't know if she thought I was being sarcastic because I was using the remote. I remember this vividly, and it wasn't working. And I was like, "Oh, the batteries are probably going out. When were the last?" She took the remote and she threw it right at me. And so I missed, and the whole entire living room window just shattered to pieces. But it was just a lot of things like that. And so eventually it got to the point where she couldn't find a reason to kick me out. So she said, "You know what? I can't have you living here anymore. You just used me for a place to stay." And I was like, "What do you mean I use you for a place to stay? I mean, I'm 17, I'm in school." She says, "You just go hang out with your boyfriend, you just go to work, and then you're just at school. You just use me for a place to live." And so it got to this heated argument like usual, and I just ran upstairs. She ran upstairs after me, and she grabbed me by my hair. I just remember just throwing punches, and it got to the point where I was like, "You know what, fine, I'm gonna leave." So I packed up all my things. I'm a foster child that was adopted, kicked out at 17. Where am I going? I have no family. I have no one to go to. So I had this boyfriend that I was seeing at the time. We weren't really serious. He was 24 and I was 17, red flag. So I call him. I'm like, "Hey, do you care if I live with you?" And he's like, "Sure." So he picks me up that day, and I move all my stuff in. And that was really when a lot of my childhood traumas really started to project into my adult life, and I started to notice it. So the first 2 months of our relationship, everything's fine. He has his own house. He's taking me to and from school. So I was like, okay, that was a really big worry of mine. I'm kicked out at 17. I'm like, "Well, I can't even go to school now." He's like, "No, don't worry about it. I will take you to school every day. I don't care. I want to see you graduate. I want to see you make it." So the first 2 months of me living there was great. He tells me that he had just got out of rehab, but he's trying to be clean. I remember the very first night that he relapsed on. So he goes out to the bar. I was 17. I obviously couldn't go. He asked me if he could go. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care. Whatever. I can't go. Have fun." So he comes home, and he's acting very strange. And I kind of just let it go. And then the next day, the morning after, he's so aggressive towards me. And that was not regular behavior for him at all at this point. An argument kind of starts "What is going on? What did you do? What happened?" I thought maybe he cheated on me because, that's the first signs when someone cheats on you. They start projecting onto you you're so horrible and you have no idea what's going on. Well, no, that wasn't the case. He told me the truth came out that he was doing all night, and he didn't want me to know, which I wouldn't have known anyway, but he didn't want me to know. So he decided to do Xanax to go to sleep. I didn't even know what to do. I kind of just brushed it off. He's like, "I promise I won't ever do it again. I don't know why I did it. It was stupid." So a couple of months go by, and I remember the first time that he was physically abusive to me. I had just graduated high school, and he choked me. We got to an argument. I can't even remember about what now. This was so long ago. And he put his hands around my neck and he choked me and he threw me up against the wall. And I was like, oh no. So I was like, I tried to go back to my adopted parents' house, because I don't know where to go. I literally have no one. I have nowhere to go. I remember I just felt so just lost and alone. And he came over right as I left, just crying and begging, the whole, sob story that they do. If you've been in a domestic violence relationship, it's always the cry sob story that they're sorry. And I believed it because, again, I'm young. I don't want to go back to this place that I just got kicked out of because I know these people don't really care about me. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just go back here. And I ultimately went through that for 4 years of just domestic violence. One time he punched me in the face and he split my cheekbone, my left cheekbone, right in half. And for 7 months, I could not feel the entire left half of my face, including my teeth, because it was my nerves. So if I brushed my teeth, I couldn't feel. If I drank, I couldn't feel. If I ate, I just could, for 7 months. And so the doctor told me this could be permanent. So I just started freaking out. And that's really the huge eye opener for me when I was like, okay, I believe I was 19 when that happened. And I was like, I need to get out of this relationship. I need to figure something out. So a couple of weeks go by. And ironically enough, I see a guy who I went to school with, and he was my best friend, my childhood best friend. We just didn't talk anymore because he was in a relationship, I was in a relationship, and to be honest, I completely forgot about him. So he messages me on Facebook hey, how are you? And I just tell him, I'm in this extremely abusive relationship. I have nowhere to go. Me thinking he's the good guy because I knew him from high school. We were literally best friends. I thought I knew this person. We go and hang out several times. And so one day, the last night where everything happened and he choked me up and the watch scratched my chest, I call my childhood best friend and he picks me up. And he was like, you know what? I am tired of seeing you go through this. So you're going to come live with me. And I was like, okay, sure. So he goes to his house and he helps me, walks into his house while he was at work, and he helps me pack up all my belongings. And I left that relationship and I absolutely have never been back since. And everything was fine at first, but that was because he was love bombing me. So not only was I in a domestic violence relationship for 4 years, I have now moved my way to a narcissist. When you're in a domestic violence relationship, those wounds heal. But when you're with a narcissist, all those wounds are in here. And so to heal these wounds take a lot of patience and self-love and just really figuring out who you are and what is even going on, because a narcissist will get you so far out of reality. That relationship lasted about 6 months. But during that relationship, he was like, okay, you need to get a job. You need to get out on your feet. You need to get these things, which I agreed with 100%. So I started bartending and I made a lot of money bartending. But at first, they only needed me on the weekends. So even though I was making a lot of money, it wasn't really consistent. And he wanted me to pay him $200 a month. Well, I had my phone bill to pay and I was buying groceries. And sometimes I couldn't pay him the $200 a month. And that's kind of where he started getting cold and weird towards me, was money. I just felt like I wasn't really in a relationship anymore. And I was like, I've already wasted 4 years of my life. I am not going to sit here and waste who knows how long. So I sit him down one day and I'm like, do you just not want to be with me anymore? Because I just feel like you don't. He has all these girls in his phone that are just his friend and he's not really hanging out with me, and he didn't care. I didn't really want to break up. I just wanted to see his reaction. So for him to just say, yeah, that's fine, and just go, I was just devastated. I thought I wanted my boyfriend to be like, no, let's have a real conversation. But narcissists don't really talk about anything. They just shut down. Even in our relationship, if there was an argument, he just would not speak for days until the issue just disappeared. He wasn't abusive physically, but mentally he was 100% abusive. And it's so weird to say that my domestic violence abuser was more emotionally available than someone who never put their hands on me. Because even though this person who was beating me in my domestic violence relationship, in a weird way, I could tell that he felt bad. Things kind of end between us, but not really, because I'm still seeing him. And then I find him with other girls. And finally one day he comes to me, I'm at work, and he was like, hey, I'm moving to Florida. And I was like, oh. And then he's telling me, I don't love you anymore. I don't want to be with you because you don't have a car, you don't have a career, you have nothing going for you. You have all these childhood traumas, and I can't sit here and take care of your broken little pieces anymore. So he goes to Florida, but he calls and he texts me sometimes. Looking now that I'm healed and I love myself, it was just a little string he wanted me to have a hold of me for when he comes back to Ohio. Can I come see her? Can I sleep with her still? But I don't want to be with her because she's not up to my status. So I just was like, I need to stop having him in my life, and I just need to feel the pain of just being alone and not having these people to help me. So because I was a bartender, I was exposed. So I was drinking all the time, every single day, and I have a weak immune system already. I was just born that way, so it weakens your immune system more. And I was sick all the time, and I just couldn't figure out why. Well, you're getting drunk every day, that's why. So after I quit using to cope and going out, and I got very much caught up in the party life, I finally just sat with myself and was by myself, and I hated it at first. And my sister, my adopted sister, her and I have a very good relationship, and she told me, like, you need to be alone. You've just never been alone. You need to heal what's wrong with you. You need to heal these childhood traumas. And I was like, you know what? I really do. I never even thought about that. It's a very harsh thing to say, but what is wrong with you that you're drinking all the time? What is wrong with you that you're with these abusive men? What is wrong with you that you can't have stable relationships or friendships, or everything's just so horrible in your life? And that's a really hard truth to come to terms with and, realize, like, I am the problem. Even though these people are very problematic, it's because I'm the problem and I'm just attracting nothing but problems. So when I realized that, and just finally just was by myself, and I'd go on nature walks, and I saved up money to buy a car, and I spent an entire year building my credit, and the narcissist comes back because I have all these things that, he left me for. And so I told him that's not going to happen. He was like, whatever. And so then he kind of flips, and then they're mean to you again because they can't get what they want from you, which I'm happy I said no. And I'm happy that I actually had enough strength to say no, because a year ago I was bawling my eyes out begging this man to love me. And now I actually have the power and strength within to say no. And I'm happy I did, because 3 days later, he has a girlfriend. And so I quit the party life. I quit drinking, and I was like, you know what? I want to go to school. So I'm at my bartending job, and I'm not drinking anymore. I'm just solely saving up money to go to school. And another friend from high school comes in, and he comes into the bar, and I have not seen this man in like 6 years. And I was like, this is not going to happen again. I'm not going to be in another relationship. It was so crazy because the bar was packed full, and I'm sitting talking to my friend, and I feel someone sit down next to me, but I'm still like talking. I didn't want to be rude. And so when he was done with his conversation, I look over, and he looks over at me, and we just like recognize each other, and we started talking, and somehow we ended up hanging out for 3 straight days. I realized that I was in these abusive relationships because I didn't heal myself. I didn't heal all those things that were wrong with me and what I went through. And so now that I attracted such he's so kind, and my best friend. And I think I waited about 4 months before I was like, okay, we can date, but I'm not moving in with you. I don't want your money. You're not going to help me with anything. Because in past relationships, even though they would buy me things and help me with things, they'd use that and rub it in my face. So he was just so respectful and kind. And we have been together almost a year now, and there's not been one red flag, which is crazy for me to say because I've waited. I think the first 6 months of my relationship, I was just watching so in detail, waiting for a red flag, but he doesn't even yell. So I went to school, and he actually helped me with school. He was like, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can quit your job. I know you don't want to be in the bar life anymore, and you can just come stay with me, and I'll pay your bills for you. And at first I was like, immediately no, absolutely not. Will you be doing that? I'm a strong-willed, independent woman. And he was like, Barbara, just because you're in a relationship, I'm not going to take that away from you. You can still be an independent, strong woman, but in a relationship, we're a team. And so that was the first time where I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. Because I was always used to everything being used against me. And so I finally was like, okay, you know what, I'll do it. So I saved up a couple $1,000s just in case something went south. And he helped me through school, and I ended up graduating with a 4.0. And it was so crazy to me because I was in high school, kicked out, struggling in a domestic violence relationship, didn't even think I was going to graduate, ended up finishing with a 1.7, the bare minimum. And then to go to nursing school after all these traumatic things that happened in my life and graduate with a 4.0 was the most rewarding thing ever because I didn't even think I had it in me, but I didn't think I had it in me because everybody around me told me I didn't. And the one person that actually told me that I could do it, I did. So I actually graduated nursing school as a medical assistant, a multi-skilled technician, and those are all nationally certified, and then a nationally certified patient care technician. What I would say to women or even men, which that's not talked about either, that are in domestic violence relationships is just, there's shelters out there that you can go to. There's people out there that you can talk to, and don't be afraid to do that. I was so scared because I felt like people were going to look at me funny, especially since I told my abuser's family. And they shunned me completely. They didn't want to hear it. They wanted nothing to do with it. And don't be afraid to do that, even though that's such a scary thing to do. Talk to somebody because eventually someone's going to hear you and someone's going to want to take you from that situation. But also, if you're in a domestic violence relationship, just leave. Don't go back because that person is always going to be that person no matter what. There's no sense in destroying your life and wasting years of your life, even though it's really not a waste. I mean, yes, it was 4 years that's gone, but that's 4 years that I will never waste again. That's 4 years that I will cherish because that was an experience that I had to go through to know to never go through that again. Sometimes living life, like your next move to your next move, is so hectic and chaotic, but that's how you survive. That's how I had to survive. I didn't know where I was going next, but it brought me to a final stable place where now I have my own house and I have my own, soon to be family, and I have my own career. I have all these things that I can actually say are my own, because a lot of the times when you're in a domestic violence relationship, it's because someone has something over you. You don't have anywhere else to live. Their car is in your name, or your car is in their name, which was my situation, or, whatever. So it's like, who cares about the materialistic things? I had to finally just let everything go, just to start over. I know that sucks, and that's the worst thing that you have to do, especially in your 20s or 30s or 40s or wherever, where you just finally have to start over. But it's such a good feeling because I don't care about those materialistic things. I have myself, my peace, because when I die, my spirit is leaving. I'm not taking the car, I'm not taking the house, I'm not taking the clothes, the jewelry, whatever. I don't care about that because now I have all those things on my own. And I remember my domestic violence abuser would tell me, you will never be anything without a man. You're just going to mooch on a man for the rest of your life. You're never going to be independent. You'll never be anything without me. Just leave. There's nothing that's going to amount. It's never going to get better. There's nothing that's going to change. You're going to be just stuck. And that's really the mental abuse and the domestic violence abusive relationship, is being stuck. I remember crying and begging God to just please let me out of the situation. And he did. It really wasn't much better of a situation, but it was because that was something I had to learn and go through. I can't depend on these people to love me. I have to love me. And once you love you, you won't depend on anybody else.